I've written The Building Blocks of Character, and I want to share it with you. This is a good thing to teach little kids to help them remember what's really important. The building blocks of character are 4 things. 1, we learn to ask for our needs to be met. We learn to thank people for what they've given us. We learn to apologize, and we learn to forgive. These 4 building blocks of character can help remind children to remember the end from the beginning. We have to remember that each person in our life is very important. And so, not to hold any grudges wherever we go, not to hold back emotionally. In the building blocks of character, we learn to ask, we learn to thank, we learn to apologize, and we learn to forgive. First, we learn to ask and say please politely. When kids learn to say please, thank you, please, thank you, we always teach that to kids, right? Why? It's so important because when we ask, we are admitting our need for others. Because from the moment we were born, we began asking. In fact, we began crying for our needs to be met. And the very fact that we're alive today is proof that somebody answered that cry and they took care of us. They cared about us enough to nurture us, feed us, protect us, change our diapers and everything, or we wouldn't be here today. So, relationships are the stuff of life, and we all need each other. So, it's okay to ask. And just remember to ask politely and always say please. So, that's something we teach our kids, hopefully, to ask and say please. As I was growing up, I was afraid to ask always. That was my hang-up. But if you can allow your children the freedom to feel that you hear their needs and that you don't mind them asking, that it's okay to ask, that it's okay to have needs, whether we say yes, no, maybe, whatever it is, that your child is free to ask and free to have needs. We don't just say, what do you want? Yeah? So that's the first thing. We have to learn to ask. The second building block of character is that we need to remember to thank. We need to remember to thank others. Being thankful is the key to life. It's the key to joy. Gratitude is the key to being at peace and really enjoying our lives. So being able to see what we have to be thankful for is a great boon to happiness. When we realize that we need others, right? Because we need others to survive. We then begin to be thankful for what we have. Because we wouldn't have anything. We wouldn't even have life itself if it hadn't been given to us first. So always remember to be thankful for what we have. Teaching kids to be thankful is a wonderful thing. Then we learn the next big step, which is learning to say, I'm sorry. And learning to say, I'm sorry is a very big one, because being human, we all make mistakes, right? To apologize requires humbling ourselves and admitting that we're not perfect. And we cannot grow further in our character until we can learn to say, I'm sorry. The next thing that we need to learn is to forgive. Because after we admit that we're not perfect, by the way, how many of us have been around people who are always right? So we've all met people like that, right? But it's something that I think if you're one of those people who's always right, that it always squashes other people. And so learning to admit your mistakes, learning to say, I'm sorry, and then learning to say, I forgive you, is the big one, is a big one. Because how many of us have been hurt and hold on to those hurts and don't let go? We refuse to forgive people because why? It'll mean that they're right and we were wrong. That's what we imagine it means, but it doesn't mean that. When you forgive someone, you set a prisoner free. You don't set them free, you set yourself free. And that's a very important message. When you forgive, you set yourself free. Free from the feeling of anger and resentment that you've been carrying around. And some people have likened unforgiveness to you're in a lifeboat, and in the lifeboat there's two people, you and this other person. And when you are angry at that other person for what they've done to hurt you, you're so angry that you decide to poke a hole in the end of his boat. You're both in the same boat. In fact, we're all in the same boat. We all have feelings that we carry in this boat. And unforgiveness pokes a hole in the other guy's boat and we both sink. So we have to know that if they are being mean, angry, whatever, let them carry their anger with them if that's what they want to do. But what kind of feelings we want to carry around with us are peace and joy. So we can't carry peace and joy and resentment and anger in the same boat. We have to free ourselves of that. Release that anger. And one good way is just to say, God, I'm giving this person to you. You take care of them. You can handle them, and I know you will. If there's something that they need to be punished for, you're better at it than I am. So just forgive them, and by forgiving them, you're not letting them off the hook. You're freeing yourself from carrying around the anger and the burden of what they did. 4 building blocks of character. The last one that says, I forgive you, says, we learn to forgive after we admit that we are not perfect. Then we can say, I forgive you, knowing that we also need forgiveness. How else can we get along in the world, right? If everybody would just do these 4 things, it would be wonderful. Now listen, what I've written about this is the 4 building blocks are habits that we can learn. And the habits that we learn as children will stay with us for a lifetime. So learning these 4 building blocks of character lays the foundation for a good life. And when you think about it, how many gang wars, marriage conflicts, world wars, sibling rivalries would be avoided if people would just learn these 4 things. Admit that we need each other. Thank others for what they have done. Apologize for our failings and our mistakes when we make them. And forgive one another. Admit, thank, apologize, and forgive. And those are the 4 building blocks of character. My son came home one day with a beautiful little poem that he'd gotten from his 5th grade teacher. Here it is, I'll read it for you. It says here, habits are actions built up strong and tall, like bricks laid together to form a high wall. When once they are built, it is so hard to break them. You'd better be careful about how you make them. Giving the children the 4 building blocks of character will lay the foundation for a good life. If you would like a copy of the 4 building blocks of character, and you can download them so that you'll be able to have them. So that's my message for today, and I wish you all the best, and take peace. Take peace. You don't have to wait for peace. Take it. It's waiting for you. Take peace and enjoy your life.